But we see Jesus, who was made a little lower than the angels of the suffering for the suffering and death, crowned with glory and honor, that he by the grace of God should taste death for every man. For it became him for whom all are all things, and by whom are all things, and bringing many sons unto glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through suffering. For both he that are sanctified and they who are sanctified are all of one, for which cause he is not ashamed to call them brethren, saying, I will declare thy name unto my brethren. In the midst of the church will I sing praise unto thee. And again I will put my trust in him, and again, behold, I and the children which God hath given me. For as much then as the children are partakers of flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same, that through death he might destroy him that had the power of death, that is the devil, and delivered them who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage. For verily he took not on him the nature of angels, but he took on him the seed of Abraham. Wherefore in all things it behooved him to be made like unto his brethren, that he might be a merciful and faithful high priest in things pertaining to God, to make reconciliation for the sins of the people. For in that he himself has suffered being tempted, he is able to secure them that are tempted. I just read unto you Hebrews chapter 2, verses 9 through 18. And today I would like to just discuss how Jesus was made perfect. Now, we think about perfection, and we think about Jesus, and we think about the fact, as Christians, we know that Jesus was God in human form. He was divine. He was divinity wrapped in humanity, and we see this in in the understanding of the author of the book of Hebrews, who I believe to be is Paul. But he's saying, um, wherefore in all things, this is in Hebrews 2:17, it behooved him to be made like unto his brethren. It behooved him to be made to unlike made to be made like unto his brethren. Now, what even is implicit in this description of Jesus Christ, his pre-existence is implicit, because it says, wherefore in all things it behooved him to be made like unto his brethren, that he might be a merciful and faithful high priest in things pertaining to God, to make reconciliation for the sins of the people. For in that he himself has suffered being tempted, he is able to secure them that are tempted. So we know Jesus to be God in human form, the divinity and humanity. So what does it mean that he's perfected? Shouldn't he be perfect already? When it says Jesus had to be perfected or made perfect, what is it saying? Is the author trying to imply that Jesus had some type of flaw, some type of character flaw, where he had to be made perfect because he had flaws? Now, when we say someone is perfect, when we in Christianity, when we say Jesus is perfect, what are we saying? As Christians, I believe Jesus was perfect. What do I mean by that? I believe he's perfect from his birth to his death, even when he rose again. But right here it says he was made perfect. So when we as Christians say Jesus was perfect, what do we mean? Do we mean that Jesus never missed? He's a carpenter. Do we mean that Jesus never, when he was hammering in a nail, that he never missed and hit his finger? Are we saying that Jesus never tripped over a rock? Are we saying that Jesus never spilled any milk? Are we saying that Jesus was, when we say Jesus is perfect, what are we saying? Are we saying it in that way? See, when we say Jesus is perfect, we're speaking on his sinless perfection, meaning Jesus never committed sin. We see this in the scriptures. When we go to Hebrews 4 and 14 through 15, it says, seeing then that we have a great high priest that is passed into the heavens, Jesus the Son of God, let us hold fast our profession. For we have not an high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. So the Bible always testifies to the fact that Jesus Christ was without sin. And he was a lamb without blemish. He was perfect in his ways. It doesn't mean that he didn't experience any of the frailties of being a human being. It doesn't mean that if he stubbed his toe or missed a nail or tripped that he somehow wasn't perfect. So when we say he's perfect, we're talking about sinless perfection and perfection of character. But what is the Hebrews writer speaking on here when he's saying that Jesus was made perfect through sufferings? Now let's go back and let's read. We're going to go right back to verse 10. Well, number 9, verse 9 in chapter 2 of Hebrews. But we see Jesus, who was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he, by the grace of God, should taste death for every man. For it became him, for whom are all things, and by whom are all things, and bringing many sons unto glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through suffering. So we see that God saw fit to make Jesus the perfect Savior for his people by the means of suffering. So as we see, what God is trying to do is to make Jesus perfect, is trying to perfect Jesus in his role as Savior and his role as a priest. So it says, for both he that sanctified and they who are sanctified are all one. Well, let me read that right. It says, for he that sanctifieth and they who are sanctified are all one. For which cause he is not ashamed to call them brethren, saying, I will declare thy name unto my brethren, and in the midst of the church will I sing praise unto thee. And again I will put my trust in him, and again, behold, I and the children of God have given me. For as much then as children are partakers of flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same, that through death he might destroy that had the power of death, that is the devil. So we see Jesus Christ in his mission to be the captain of our salvation. We see in his mission that he was to do this by becoming one of us. And it's in his becoming one of us that he goes through the things that he needs to go through to be perfected as the captain of our salvation, to make him the perfect candidate for our salvation, to make him the perfect priest for us. So now we're about to see where God, as we read the book of Hebrews, he talks about the priesthood. And one thing that is shown when you look at the priesthood is the fact that man cannot approach God on his own terms. God has set up through the law a priesthood, a go-between for man to come to him. So now through Jesus Christ, God is going to try to bring all men to him through Jesus Christ and set forth him as the high priest. So now we're about to see what it means by him being perfected through the things he suffered, because he's being made the perfect captain of our salvation and a perfect high priest. So I will continue this in the next part. So this is part 1, and I'm going to finish this up in the next couple parts.